When you have so much clarity after 9 months that if you carry on this track, there's a high chance you'll get divorced. There's a high chance you won't have a good relationship with your kids. There's a high chance you have a lot of money, but no one to enjoy it with. And that you are living a role rather than your authentic self. I had so much clarity that that decision was actually easy.
Okay.
But I realized that to reassure your listeners is that we've got mortgages, we've got kids' education to pay, and we've got holidays which we want to take. And so what I wished I had known 10 years ago was the other side of the coin. I wish I had known how to look inside myself, discover who I truly am, find the real Jonathan again, understand how I function, and get them working together. Get this incredible supercomputer, which is our mind, to work with the heart, which has our identity, our passions, and what energizes us. And so what I help people do, which is my own story, is I help them align the external world which they live in with an internal world that they've never gone in to explore because they were never taught to at school. You never had an exam on yourself, Paul, and neither did I at school. It was all external. So we're conditioned to look outside ourselves. And so, but there's another skill set, which is the other side of the coin, which is learning to look inside yourself. And the last 10 years has been about learning to look inside myself and to give myself everything I was chasing so hard on the outside.
Jonathan Cave, welcome to the Inner Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Jonathan, by 40 years of age, you were a partner at a top law firm. So to us mere mortals, that means you had it all. You were making the big bucks we know you legal folks make. You were living the life and you walked away from it all. What the hell were you thinking?
Thanks for the question. Right to the guts there, Paul. Love it.
Yeah, let's not beat around the bush here.
Yeah. So as you said, had it all, at least on the surface. And what triggered was that I was given the opportunity to become the senior partner. So, the holy grail in the legal world, senior partner, you don't get higher than that. And this offer caused me to ask myself two questions. One, do I want to be senior partner, which I'd spent my entire professional and life working towards. But a second question came, would I be happy and fulfilled if I carried on this route? And it took 9 months, and I was following both tracks, kind of the negotiation of the senior partnership and answering this question, will I be happy and fulfilled? And by the end of the 9 months, Paul, the answer was completely clear. I would not be happy and fulfilled if I carried on. And so I went back to the partners and said, thank you for the offer. I don't accept it. I'm leaving the firm and I'm leaving the law. And they didn't say anything. They just didn't understand what was happening. Is this a parallel world? Was this real? Was this, but that was it.
It's like offering an athlete the Olympic gold medal and that they've worked since they were, 8 years of age, and you're just about to hand them the gold and they go, no, I've decided I want, because I said I won't take it, because that's like, I see it in the big practices, both financial and legal, in Ireland. Young grads go in there and they work them. I mean, they literally do work them night and day. But they have this holy grail in mind that they know they will get, and it may take them to 40 years of age, but they know get to a point where they will be earning the big bucks and they will have it, and they will have it all. I'm curious what led you to ask the question in the first place.
So the question came because on the surface, as you said, everything looked fantastic, right? So great career, the money, as you were saying, the prospects, the life, the house in the suburbs of Geneva, the family, wife and 2 kids. and it is picture perfect. But there was another reality inside myself, which no one else knew about. Maybe my wife suspected, but no one else knew about, which was that of being someone who was completely stressed. I was blocking my back every 3 weeks, so much so that my osteopath became my best friend because I would see him more than anyone else. Sometimes I had cramps going into work as I pressed on the elevator button. On holiday, I was always negotiating with my wife when I could work around our activities. And so the real world I was feeling on the inside was completely different to the one I was showing to everybody else. And I think when you have an invitation like this to take senior partnership or other sort of promotion, either you put it under the rug and hide it, or you face it and say, okay, I'm gonna sit with this, see what happened, how did I get here? Having done everything my parents said, everything society told me to do at a super high level. Why aren't I experiencing the happiness and fulfillment that is kind of the unwritten promise, that you do well, you get this, you get that, and you'll be happy and fulfilled, you'll have a great life. Well, I was feeling the reverse.
So as you looked around this law firm, and I assume it was a sizable law firm, as you looked around you, what did you see, both from people who were senior to you at that point in time in the law firm and juniors? What level of contentment and happiness, if you were tuned in at all to that as a concept? I don't know, maybe you were just looking at their cars and their summer homes and the incomes you thought, maybe that's all you saw. But when you look at it, did you see, was it just you? Was it just, Jonathan is not a fit here. He's a square peg in a round hole. Did you just not fit in? Or when you look now across the board, do you see a lot of people who are just unhappy?
That's a good question. And I don't know. I don't know is the honest answer, because I left, went on my own journey, and so didn't really come back and ask the people I used to work with, did you feel like me? Were you showing something on the outside but not feeling the same on the inside, etc.? So I don't know. The 10 years since then, though, have revealed to me over and over again, with the high achievers I'm fortunate to spend time with and privileged to spend time with, that I wasn't the only one living this external success, but living a kind of internal struggle and frustration and sadness that I was actually carrying on my back. So it's been revealed subsequently, but I didn't know at the time whether the people around me had the same thing.
I'm gonna so if you've spent the last 10 years then working with high achievers, um my guesstimate is that probably 90% of those high achievers are actually not very happy people.
Hmm.
Is that an unfair estimate?
That's not an unfair estimate, and it's actually quite scary that you use the 90%, because here's what I've noticed in 90% of the high achievers I've been privileged to follow or know. Across the board, this is entrepreneurs the world over, CEOs of massive listed companies, sports people, political, who objectively have achieved. Okay, everybody would say they've made it. 90% of them have low inner confidence or a feeling of fraud or the imposter syndrome, but they show the reverse to the world. Great confidence, interviews, TV, etc. 90% of them are what I call train drivers. Now go with me on this, Paul. Train drivers means they are able to be the conductor of a train, get people on board, and get the train going through the French countryside, TGV-like, and to achieve projects and companies and success, whatever that looks like.
They can get it done. They deliver.
They deliver. So that's why I call them amazing train drivers. but they are usually very poor Spelunkian explorers. Spelunkian explorers means staying.
You've made this term up, I'm guessing.
It's actually a technical term.
It's a
Spelunkian
technical term.
exploration is
Okay.
going into caves, right?
All right. Yes. 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 Yeah.
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 I've made the train driver Spelunkian exploration up, but
Yeah.
Spelunkian explorers go into caves. So they don't move horizontally, they move down basically
dig
into
deep.
the earth. And so they are very good train drivers, but very poor Spelunkians, meaning they're not able to stay in one place and go deep. And that affects their relationships with themselves, their loved ones, and their close friends. How many high achiever CEOs, entrepreneurs have said, I can't stand still. I'm not at peace unless I'm going 350 kilometers driving my train.
I'm gonna change the word you said there a little bit, because what I hear is I'm not at peace, full stop.
Yep.
But if I keep the train running at 150 miles an hour, I get distracted from the fact I'm not at peace. That's
100%. You got it. You completely got it. And it's not the train driving, which is the issue, or the Spelunkian exploration. It's the excess of one and the complete lack of another. So when you're going 400 kilometers an hour, yes, you're building an empire, you're building an industry, you're maybe running a country. Fantastic. But if you're too fast and are unable to stay still and be with the people you love and truly be present and listen to them and what they're saying, what they're not saying, there's a price you pay. And that's what I hear from these high achievers who will never talk about this in interviews on TV or at dinners, but they talk about it with someone like me who, voila, that they come across synchronistically.
Yeah, and you and I have never spoken before, but we've the exact same experience, because this is our experience of speaking with successful people, that so many of them are unhappy. And I'm guessing you're a little bit younger than I am, but still we come from a generation, different sides of the world. But I'm guessing when you were a kid, because I'm assuming a similar childhood to mine, your parents encourage you to study well and to work hard, and they want you to get good grades and go to college and do all of these things. Because they loved you, and it was what they wanted the very best for you. But they never said, Jonathan, connect to who you are, your soul, your nature, and see if you can create a successful life, but one that will fulfill you as a human being also. That was never said to me. That would have been like talking Chinese. I can see from your expression it was never said to you. So is that what it is? Was it just never said to us? Was it just never in our anywhere in our, in our arena for us to consider that, until we got to a point of misery where thankfully you had the insight? Because I'm also going to guess that a huge amount of people in your position would have not taken that 9 months for self-reflection. Would have said, I gone home, honey, I got the big job, would have told their parents or friends or neighbors, and would have launched into that, and maybe been another 5 or 10 years in that, and notice now that, gosh, I don't know, is my marriage breaking up? As a, am I drinking too much? My kids don't want to talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
Would they just have drifted into that? I'm guessing that that's where most people end up, but the root cause is the same. So
Yeah.
why were you the individual that had the moment of reflection of going, whoa, slow down, is this for me?
Two things, if I may, to answer that question. Number one is, in terms of the background and influence we got, the love and the messages we got. Our parents did the best they could, obviously, based on their own parents.
Yes,
Which,
100%.
and of course, my parents loved me unconditionally, just like I love my two kids unconditionally. I'd do anything for my kids, and I think my parents would do anything for me. What I think a lot of us felt, though, on a daily basis, is the conditional love, the get good grades and you'll stand out vis-a-vis your sister or your brother, and the sparkle in the eyes of your parents who may or may not express pride comes up. When we're young, we soon find out, how do we get attention and love? Because we're not strategic when we're kids. We just want attention and love. So if you help the family or if you get good grades, suddenly there's a spotlight on you and you're getting this attention. So we got unconditional love, but we felt conditional love. And that conditionality, I think a lot of us carry on after we leave home and the influence of our parents, and apply it to ourselves. Jonathan, the harder you work, the more money you get, the more you'll get reward, and you'll get the happiness, and we substitute ourselves from our parents. And that conditionality drives us and drives a lot of us, with the promise that outer success will bring inner fulfillment and success and peace of mind. And it does to a certain extent until it doesn't. And I've got a story of an entrepreneur, billionaire. He started with one clothing shop. He now has 1,200 clothing shops in the country, very well known. Obviously, I can't share the name. And he has the imposter syndrome. And I said, but listen, you started with one, you're now 1,200. Surely your external success is translated into the fact that you have confidence in yourself, you're aligned, you're happy, etc. And he says, no, but maybe when I have 2,400. And I said, listen, I don't know the percentage from 1 to 1,200, but it's huge. Surely it would have happened by now. So the key learning is, and this is the clarity that I got coming to your question of, why did I jump? Why did I take these 9 months? Why did I step away? Is that I realized, without realizing it, that outside success was not going to bring me inner fulfillment. I had to go on the other side of the coin, and instead of looking outside for what I was looking for, I needed to shift my attention on the inside, which, as you said, no one ever told us to do, in terms of connect to yourself, discover your soul, and be yourself every day.
The example you give of the billionaire is interesting. I've heard many examples, but it reminded me of a story. I'm trying to think how long ago. It could have been about a decade ago. And at the time, my eldest son was in school with the son of a A-list movie star. And here in Wicklow, where I live, I won't name him. So they became very good pals. And so on a couple of occasions, the guy, a very nice guy, very humble guy when he wasn't, on the big screen, he'd be sitting in my kitchen having a coffee. And my youngest son, who is now actually involved in TV and film, but he wanted to be, and he was talking to him, and like, obviously, awestruck by this guy. And he asked him about his success, and his answer was, well, he said, a lot of my friends are really talented. He said, I was just the lucky one. So I'm not saying he wasn't lucky, but my answer to it, but if I named it to you, he would go, and not only is he's considered like an incredible method, one of these guys who just drops into completely takes over, incredible actor. And it struck me that at the time, one of the most famous names in the world, but his view of himself was, I got lucky. Now, the reason I share that is because when you have someone from the world, the scale of business, a billionaire, you're not doing much better than that. You're A-list movie star.
Yeah.
And these guys, they're not simpletons like us, but inside they're the exact same, and they have this feeling of imposter syndrome. But I do think it comes back, because when you're listing all the things your parents taught us, and I was thinking, but it's all true, by the way. If you study hard, you'll get good grades. If you get good grades, you get into college. You get into college, you'll get a good job. All of this is true, by the way, except when you got to the last piece. And the last piece is, you will be happy. No, you'll be successful and you may well be rich, but you won't be happy, because all along you would have needed to at the same. It's a bit like saying, if you do all that, you'll be fit and healthy. And you go, well, no, I will need to eat well, take care of my body and exercise. Just because I now have 10 million doesn't mean you're going to be mega fit. It doesn't. and somehow we didn't connect. We didn't connect those together. And that, and it's interesting. I think you actually had what also what I'm thinking when you're telling the story is I'm thinking to myself that guaranteed there's people listening to this thinking, I know what he means. I mean, that I know what he means. Sat not so long ago with a guy who was a business in the tens of millions, very successful guy, and he said, I hate my business. I hate my business. And so again, because he's in a private room, and he's saying this, he says it nowhere else. But it's just, it's, I believe it's an epidemic. But I also think so someone like that is listening to this podcast, I have no doubt they are, and they're thinking, but you've also scared me, Jonathan, because I'm terrified to leave my business. I'm terrified to leave back that big law firm. And that's a scary thing, very scary thing to do. And hands up, I don't know if I would have had the courage to do that. So I think you're scaring people just a little also. So someone walks in your door as your client, I assume the first thing you do isn't go quit your job.
Yeah. No, I'm running a successful business, and if the result of me working with people was they resign and change lives,
You have
then
no business.
I would have no business. So
They can't pay you. Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah.
That was great, but I'm broke now.
that's it. Yeah, no. So listen, what I did was quite radical. Okay. But when you have so much clarity after 9 months that if you carry on this track, there's a high chance you'll get divorced. There's a high chance you won't have a good relationship with your kids. There's a high chance you have a lot of money, but no one to enjoy it with. And that you are living a role rather than your authentic self. I had so much clarity that decision was actually easy.
Okay.
But I realized that to reassure your listeners is that we've got mortgages, we've got kids' education to pay, and we've got holidays which we want to take. And so what I wished I had known 10 years ago was the other side of the coin. I wish I had known how to look inside myself, discover who I truly am, find the real Jonathan again, understand how I function, and get them working together. Get this incredible supercomputer, which is our mind, to work with the heart, which has our identity, our passions, and what energizes us. And so what I help people do, which is my own story, is I help them align the external world which they live in with an internal world that they've never gone in to explore because they were never taught to at school. You never had an exam on yourself, Paul, and neither did I at school. It was all external. So we're conditioned to look outside ourselves. And so, but there's another skill set, which is the other side of the coin, which is learning to look inside yourself. And the last 10 years has been about learning to look inside myself and to give myself everything I was chasing so hard on the outside. So I wanted love on the outside. So I learned to truly love myself. I was looking for people to believe in me on the outside. And so I spent my time learning to believe in myself. So the radical shift for me is learning to give yourself on the inside what we've been chasing so relentlessly on the outside. And I ask people, I'll finish with this. I ask people, what are you chasing? What is making you work so hard and sacrificing a family holiday for the work? What is it you're truly chasing? I could ask you the question, Paul. What are you truly chasing?
Well, the answer is now clearly freedom and peace. That is what I'm absolutely chasing now. Almost every decision I make is so my life remains free and I can live a peaceful life. But had you met me 20 years ago, I was chasing success. I was chasing recognition. I did want to, I couldn't have, articulated at the time, but I did want to show the world how successful I was, and the house I lived in, the car I drove in the life I could give my family. Um, and by the way, I was doing pretty damn well at that, but I was freaking miserable, like,
Mm.
entirely miserable inside. So I recognize that completely. And therefore when I had my wake up moment, I I didn't I didn't walk out of my job, but it was my business. And so what I did is I began to take all those inner questions.
Mm.
And then I realized, well, I can walk away from this business and I can walk away from this. And reality is I won't have the money, the income if I do that. Maybe I would find another career, but I won't have it. Or I can begin to, as you described, which is something I do to dig into, is can I address all these inner things? How can I experience freedom? How can I experience peace, love, connection? How can I experience getting up in the morning and be authentically me, not
Mm.
behaving in some way so I can live the life I'm living? Who is that person? Can I evolve into that person? And now can I go back into my business and go, the business I now run needs to reflect that
Mm.
person. And my journey was that journey of self-exploration, and then walking back through the business and going, my business needs to be radically different. And that was the journey I undertaken, how I create a business that's radically different. And over the years, I did that, changed massive culture, and now I have a team who run my business, and I don't really get involved in it.
Yeah.
Um, but so I'm presenting that to people who are terrified. There are other ways, but I agree with you entirely. But it has to start with beginning to look inside. I really want to dig into that, but I really want to dig into the process of that. But there's a
Yeah.
question I have to ask you, although it's skipping back a while, but it's in the back of my mind. The day you sat down and told your wife,
Yeah.
how did she react? I'm just thinking about this. I'm a wife as well.
Yeah.
I remember how my wife reacted, but I'm just wondering how your wife reacted when you told her.
Um, she said one thing to me. She said, I want to I want you to find the guy I married
Mhm.
who was the happiest, most optimistic, energized, go lucky guy I had ever met. A New Zealander. She's Swiss. And if whatever you decide, as long as you go back to that person or go forward to that person again, I support you 100%. And had I sensed some doubt, like 99%, and oh, we're not going to be able to do this and that, because it was a radical financial change. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't retire or anything like that. And suddenly, huge salary disappearing. And she never once said, oh, you shouldn't have done this. She was 100% supportive. So I know she didn't marry me for my money or the fact that I was a partner in a law firm. And she's such a hero. And the would every wife have done that? I don't know, but she's my soulmate, and she proved it in that moment, saying
As we say here, she's a keeper.
she's a complete keeper.
She's a keeper. I do remember the conversation with my wife and said, I can't do this anymore. The business has to change. And at the time, I said, I may have to leave it. I may have to leave it. And because she witnessed the stress in me, I do remember her response, because she had left work maybe 2 or 3 years earlier, largely because we didn't need her to work. And so now but she was raising three small boys at the time. And I remember the conversation. She said, well, if I have to go, she had to go. She said, if I have to go and get a job at McDonald's to keep paying the mortgage, and that's what I will do as long as you're okay.
Yeah.
And funny enough, and I remember a number of years ago, because when you own your own business, I've had some phenomenal years, but I've had some difficult years as well. And I remember saying to her, a couple of years back, as we were looking back over the decades, going, oh, we had some bumper years, but we had some tough years as well, financially when the business was doing great. And she said to me, they were all good years.
Yeah.
They were all good years.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I do think this would, particularly with men, I think we put ourselves under this pressure of what we have to provide for our family and the standards. And so many men, when they actually go and talk to their wives,
Mm. Mm.
their wives don't respond that way at all. Now, dudes, not saying their wife doesn't like the nice car and all the nice things. Of course they do, but they don't need them.
No.
When they go and talk, but we don't ask the question, you know?
Yeah.
So
You know,
and the next question is, how did your parents react?
my parents were great, actually. They during those 9 months of reflection, I created a mentor group, including my divorced parents and other people I respected. And there was
Wow.
one rule: we would meet once a month to what I call pasta and wine evenings. Pasta because I can't cook, so
Yeah.
you get a plate of pasta.
Yeah.
But I put a nice bottle of wine on the table.
Mm.
And the only rule when everybody arrived was, don't tell me what you think I should do. Everything else is on the table, but I don't want your vicarious living, etc. So don't tell me. But I want you to help me work through my process because it is a big decision with consequences, etc. So it was probably very difficult for them, but they respected the rules. My wife was 100% behind me because they believed in me and they believed in the process. And that's an amazing gift that they gave. And I'm very grateful to them.
Wow, you're very supportive people around you, which I'm going to say, I don't think it's an easy thing to do, but I think the network you have around you of supporting people makes such a difference, because particularly when it's your wife and your family, because you go, well, actually, this is the most important thing in my life. And once this is intact, everything else is kind of okay, which is funny because we all instinctively know that. We all instinctively know our family the most important things, and yet we go off and we become big lawyers and stuff, and we work 80 hours a week somehow, although we know it's crazy. So so you walked out of your law firm.
Yep.
What was day two?
Day two was actually, we got on a plane and went to Khao Lak in Thailand because it was my 40th birthday.
So it was tough from the very beginning.
It was, this had already been planned. And so we went away for 2 weeks for my 40th. And I said to my wife, listen, I'm feeling a lot of energy here in Thailand. All these Thai are smiling and, I'm miserable, etc. Do you mind if I stay another couple of weeks? And she said, yeah, as long as you come back at some point.
Yeah.
And I stayed an extra 3 weeks. And the most amazing thing happened was that I wanted to understand how I had gotten to this point, 40 years old, done everything as we were talking about, unhappy, walked away. And so I got a pen and paper. And instead of looking at books or externally, I asked myself all the questions that probably a lot of the listeners ask themselves, sort of, why am I procrastinating even though I'm super busy? What am I chasing? Who's the real Jonathan? What are his passions and what drives him? What are his values, his talents, his aspirations? How do I make decisions? Why do I constantly berate myself and say it's never good enough? Why do I not accept compliments for other people? All of these things, I had an instinct to say, I've got to answer these questions. I've got to answer them because otherwise I'm going to repeat. I'll do something else and I'll repeat the process over and over again. I got to figure out how I got to this thing. So 3 weeks went by, 20,000 words came out. It was like a dam bursting.
Wow.
And sometimes I was just trying to keep up with my hand because it was just blurting out everything that had been blocked inside. And I reread the 20,000 words and lo and behold, without realizing it, the Cartesian lawyer in me had created a 3-step approach to understanding yourself, which is 1, discovering who you are. Okay, your values, talents, and aspirations. That's the heart. Understanding how you function, how you make decisions, your narratives, your communication. That's the 2nd step. And number 3 is how to connect the heart and mind together so that 1 + 1 = 11. Don't ask me where this came from, but just by getting a pen and paper and giving myself time, I was actually answering the questions which were then the basis of the next 10 years and the business I created and the life I've created since.
So you start there with the heart.
Yeah.
Um, and what was that process like of beginning? Because it's interesting. What I heard there was the heart, kind of the head, the thinking,
Yeah.
and then how do I get them working together? Which is for many people, they've always lived from the head,
Yeah.
and so this heart is kind of some dark territory that they don't explore. Um, so what was that journey like? Was that the journey to yourself? What was
Yeah.
that journey like, and how can people begin to explore that?
Yeah. So I I'll tell you another story. I was there in Thailand looking at the lush forest, all these trees. Don't ask me why sometimes. And I picked up on nature's energy. I don't know how else to describe it, Paul, because I'm a very rational guy, but I'm also very sensitive. And I was looking at these trees and I realized that a tree and nature, of which we are part, had three energies. Okay, three energies. The first is what I call foundational energy, right? So I was looking at this tree and I saw the roots of the tree keeping it anchored, right? Foundational energy represented by roots. The second energy that I saw in the tree was transformational energy. I remember photosynthesis, when I was 10, learning biology. That's what the tree does. It takes the energy of light, converting it into oxygen, obviously, which we need. And the third energy after foundational and transformational, I thought, wow, directional energy. The tree is going upwards towards light. It's going downwards deeper and deeper, and it's going wider. And I had like this illumination. I don't know how else to call it. And I went, okay, if that's nature's energy, how does that apply to me, human beings? And I realized that our values, the foundational energy, are our values, keeping us anchored, and we live in alignment with those values. Our transformational energy is our talents, things that we do without even realizing it. You know how to do things, and you don't even know how to explain them. We all have talents. That's our transformational energy, and our directional energy is what I call our aspirations of who we want to be, what we want to do, what we want to have. And so I stumbled across what I call nature's energy and my central alignment line. So, Paul, question. If you were living in alignment with your values, if you're expressing your talents on a daily basis, and if you're progressing towards your aspirations, do you think you'll be high energy or low energy?
Oh, high energy,
High performing or low performing?
high performing,
Your authentic self or pretending to be someone else?
fully authentic.
So, when you identify your values, talents, and aspirations, this foundational, transformational, and directional energy, you identify what I call as your central alignment line. And imagine three values and three talents and three aspirations on this line. This is your high energy, high performing, authentic self. And so the trip into the heart was about discovering my natural energy that every human being has, every animal, every tree, every living thing has these three energies. And that helped me discover who I was and come back to who I was.
When you talk about so the root, so the base of this
Yeah.
are our values.
Yeah.
Are those values essential? And what I mean is, do you feel that those values are something that I am born with and they're uniquely mine, like like a fingerprint?
So no,
No.
no, I would say that for talents. You didn't ask for talents, but we all have talents.
Yeah.
They're natural gifts.
Yeah.
Values are very much conditioned on our culture, our parents, who we spend time with, the messages we get over and over again. But when you get to minus 50 meters within yourself, I mean, I'm very happy to share my values:
Please.
love, honesty, and making a difference.
Mm.
Okay, now I could spend 5 hours on each one of them, and every time I explore them, they energize me and they anchor me and they comfort me. So when I make decisions about who I spend time with, what I do, I always counter check my decisions, actions, and behaviors against my values, because I know that if I'm going to go against those values, I'm going to misalign myself. And I had 15 years of misalignment. And so this helps you realign, including when the world kind of takes you away, intentionally or not.
Um, so is your starting point with anyone you work with to get to those values?
Yes.
Is that a simple enough process with people? Is it natural to them?
Yes.
Once they start listening to themselves, it emerges.
So one, I mean, we're so conditioned to look outside yourselves, and we have these two eyes which look at this wonderful world. So it's about learning to develop your power of insight, learning who is Paul on the inside. And these values, talents, and aspirations is a very easy walkway, structured, because the mind needs structure and something logical to be able to allow you to walk into the more airy fairy heart area, if I could say like that.
Yeah.
If the mind doesn't agree, it'll say, "Oh, what is this? This is just gobbledygook. Let's go up to something more rational." So that's how I did it, to connect to my sensitivity and my identity.
And it becomes and the way you describe it there, it now becomes like a North Star that you you can look at every decision. I suppose, had you had that clarity a decade ago,
Yeah.
as you were moving through your law career, you could have very easily gone, well, how is this with, um, I think, was it love, honesty,
Yeah. And
and
making a
making a
difference.
difference? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did your career in law obviously didn't align
Yeah.
with those, and therefore, although you're, which is interesting. So 10, 12 years ago, you were completely logically unconscious of those values.
Yeah.
But at some level, your body or your nervous system knew exactly what those values were. So
Yeah.
while your mind was taking you down to career law, one part of you was going, this is not this is not who I am.
100%.
Which is the calling, I think, for anyone who goes, I don't know my values, but as you said, okay, are you high? But your energy is revealing it.
Yes. Complete your body is a radar that is telling you so many things that we put under the carpet. And this is the thing. I don't help people with the mind side of things. People are they don't need me for the mind. But the mind will be a glass ceiling at some point, both in career and in enjoyment of success, if we are mind driven. And so the journey that I went on is that I learned to go into the heart, so that the heart now leads, the mind executes, and my energy speaks. Now, the mind is concentrating on performance, getting you, through the 75 tasks you have to do today. And if it finds efficiency, it'll say, Paul, tomorrow let's do 80. Let's do 85. That's the mind's job. When you give it the keys to the car, it's going to run you into the ground. The tires are going to burst, etc., because it's survival and performance.
And it always wants more and better.
More and better.
And therefore, it's looking for what you did wrong, by the way. It's looking for the two tasks you didn't complete, not the 78 you completed, which is a miserable way to live.
That's it. And so the mind is a lousy boss.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic employee, but it's a lousy boss.
Yeah. Just
So you
the
got to give
switching
the
of the
keys.
dynamic there.
That's it. You got to give the keys to the heart once you explore what that means, right? Values, talents, aspirations, etc. The heart is focused on balance. It's not against the mind or working hard or progressing or going there. The heart is going, right, Jonathan, there's your time, there's your family time, there's your career, your interaction with society, etc. So the heart makes sure you're in balance, you're in alignment. So when you're heart driven, mind executing, and energy speaking, that's when you're in your most aligned space. And I'll finish with this. I'm very lucky. I give the decision-making course at the United Nations here in Geneva. Okay, so I help leaders make decisions, better decisions. Don't blame me for the decisions the UN is taking. I'm doing my best.
That's fair enough.
And you know what? I get them to go from a pure mental pros and cons and analytical stakeholder mapping. I get them to align the options they have in front of them with their values, with their talents, with their aspirations, with the heart aspect, which really surprises them because I've never experienced that before. And it changes the way they make decisions because they're leveraging the different parts of themselves, the mind, the heart, and actually the gut and our intuition, etc. We've got all these brains inside us, but we've never really been taught how to use them individually and then collectively.
Yeah, I mean, to talk about leading with the heart, which I think is what you said, is powerful. I think sometimes people are afraid, maybe even I'm afraid, to lead with the heart because you think of being exposed, you think of being vulnerable, you think of being hurt.
Mm,
But what I pick up most from that is that leading from the heart is authentic, it's true, it's real, it's genuine.
mm,
And now you're coming from a place where those roots are firmly rooted in who you are. And also particularly when you describe your values, I'm thinking, well, the Johnson's values, I, when I'm going to say the values I approve of, not that I'm mine to approve, but they're values that for most human beings, we go, well, they're wonderful values because I can see that they must lead to a very good life for Jonathan, for his
mm,
family, but for his community and for the world. And I do think then that all our values will be slightly different, but if they're all heart-based values, we'll all be doing our own thing, best for us, best for our families, best for our communities, best for the world, but also wanting the best. Because when you talk about those values, I want you to be successful
mm,
in those values. When you step into the mind of what I want more than you,
mm.
that's when conflict arises.
Completely, completely. And you know what? I love that you went from self to others to eventually the whole world. And we're all looking for alignment. We're all looking to be at peace with ourselves. We don't wake up and say that as specifically, but we're all looking to be at peace with ourselves. The more we align, however we do it, meditation, yoga, connecting with your values, or doesn't matter. The more you align, the more you bring that aligned energy to your family, to your company, to your sports team, to your friends. And every system is looking to align itself. And so, when I'm invited, oh, come in, we're dysfunction, we're a dysfunctional team, we're a dysfunctional family, etc. I say, right, well, I'm not touching this team or this family until we do some individual work
Mm.
on getting every individual on the road to alignment. Doesn't mean you arrive because that's a lifelong journey, but you can't take misaligned individuals and create an aligned team or an aligned group. It just doesn't make any sense. So you have to start with the individual and then bring that energy to a group so that we help it align.
Certainly, I agree. We're all seeking alignment, and I think you've articulated that very clearly. I think people may not have spoken it so clearly or understood it so clearly themselves, but I think when you say it, they go, "Well, absolutely, I want alignment for me, but I want for other people as well." As we draw to an end, maybe just give us an overview of the type of work you do, who you do it with, and where people can find you.
Thank you. So I work with
Oh, and also your forthcoming book.
oh,
Because
excellent.
when you
Yeah.
were talking about the tree, I was thinking he's going to talk about his book now, and then I just got caught up in the analogy of the roots and
Yeah.
the transformation. So yeah,
Oh, good. Listen, I was so focused.
yeah, you were on fire.
We're in a beautiful ping pong. So it's sort of, um, So, well, the journey of the last 10 years, I decided to write about it 7 years ago. I started the book, which is called The Tree and the Mountain Dare to Become. Okay. And it's a fable like The Alchemist or Siddhartha for those who know that, Paulo Coelho. But it's about daring to become who you are meant to be. And basically, the whole idea is to learn to look inside yourself, and through a really cool story, I've kind of Netflixified it, Paul. Sort of, you want to know what happens in the next chapter, and the next chapter, and the next chapter.
You have to keep
It's
reading.
yeah, it's an exciting story of a character called Andrew who needs to climb this mountain. He has it all. He has a great life. And then it's all taken away from him in one violent moment. I won't say what the violent moment is. And he wakes up in this kind of limbo between life and death in this surreal world. And he has to climb this mountain to get back to the life he had and his loved ones. But climbing the mountain is a symbol of himself. So to get to the top of the mountain, he's going to have to go inside. And so everything we've been talking about, the values, the talents, the aspirations, our fears, our sensitivity that we haven't explored, our decision-making, all of these amazing systems we have inside us kind of come out through the story of Andrew, but where the invitation is for the reader to ask him or herself questions about
and follow the
choices in
journey
life,
themselves.
etc. Yeah. And so it took me 7 years, hardest thing I ever did. But really proud of it. Well, here it is here, sort of The Tree in the Mountain. There we go. I got it illustrated by a friend of mine, so it's illustrated as well.
And is that out and available now?
It is.
It is.
It's out and available now. Yeah.
Wow, excellent.
And in terms of the final question, so I have a company called My Philosophy. So the invitation is to create your own philosophy. And I work with high achievers all around the world to help them align and find their high-performing, authentic, high-energy self so that they can break through the glass ceiling of their career or personal life, not by doing more of the outside but by looking inside. Because that's what I've discovered, is that to achieve success on the outside, which is what a lot of us are conditioned to do, focus on the inside, and the success on the outside will come in an abundance you can only dream of, ironically, by looking inside rather than outside. So, voilà.
Makes sense to me. Jonathan, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a great and insightful conversation. Where can people find you?
They can find me, jonathancave.com is the website, or on LinkedIn, Jonathan Cave. I'd be very happy to connect and exchange. I put a lot of videos on. I do conferences, so please reach out if this resonated to you. And
excellent. And we will stick all this information in the show notes so people can find it easily. Jonathan,
fantastic.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for your amazing questions, and time has flown.
Thank you.